Well, let's go now to Miami Beach and speak to Professor Emeritus at the Harvard Law School, Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, let's just start by getting your response to what you just heard from Rabbi Boteach.
Well, I'm not going to engage with Rabbi Boteach. He's not an expert about Qatar. He just likes to get attention by attacking people like me. He has basically suggested that I've done this for the money. I mean, I spend 50% of my professional time doing pro bono work on behalf of Israel. He gets paid for every minute he spends. Is he really suggesting that my views would be different if I hadn't been sent on a, quote, a junket? So I'm not going to engage him, but I will take on the issue because it's a very, very serious issue. I did not defend Qatar. I'm not the mouthpiece for Qatar. I'm not representing Qatar. I've simply asked for an objective investigation of the conflicting claims. I want to learn the truth. For example, it is argued that Qatar supports Hamas. I spoke to the ambassador from Qatar to Gaza, and what he says is he coordinates with Israeli authorities giving money to build buildings, hospitals, schools, homes that were destroyed in the Gaza wars. Those are very different accounts. I want to know the truth. All I'm interested in is the truth. And I wonder why my critics have been so vociferous in trying not to have an independent investigation. I've suggested, for example, Luis Ocampo, the former chief prosecutor for the International Criminal Courts, one of the most distinguished lawyers in the world, to serve as chairman of a commission of inquiry. Let's find out the truth so we don't just have dueling narratives where people express different views. Look, when I was in Qatar, I was surprised to see that they welcomed an Israeli tennis player, put the Israeli flag, play the Israeli national anthem, and Saudi Arabia condemned them for it while themselves banning an Israeli chess. I want to find out the truth. That's all I'm interested in. That's all I've ever
curious. I'm curious, we do hear a lot of talk, certainly here in the Middle East, about the importance of Israel's connections with some of these countries, that a lot of those ties are happening behind the scenes. In your view, do you think that Israel should be going ahead and building ties with countries like Qatar or like Saudi Arabia, for that matter, or to wait for a sort of inquiry you suggest?
No, I think they should begin to build ties, but it should always be a matter of waiting and seeing before too many ties are developed too strongly. Ties have to go both ways. For example, I pressed very hard for the Qataris to push Hamas, if they have contact with them, to return the bodies of the Israeli soldiers and the 2 Israeli civilians who are in captivity in Gaza. They promised me they would make every possible effort to do it. Let's see if they come through. So for me, it's always a good thing for Israel to try to establish relations. And believe me, before I went to Qatar, I spoke to people both in the United States government, the Israeli government. I did not need the permission of a rabbi from New Jersey to go there. But I did get insight from people who really are experts, and they all encouraged me to go with an open mind. I came back with more questions than answers. All I want to do is get answers to my questions. I'm hoping to do it through an objective, independent investigation. Once all the facts are established, then people can argue about opinions. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but not everybody's entitled to their own facts.
Alan,
and I want to learn the truth.
Alan, though, we do know, and it is clear that Qatar, which is engaged in a conflict with Saudi Arabia at the present, and the Trump administration is taking the part of Saudi Arabia, it's clear Qatar is trying to reach out to elements of the leaders of the American Jewish community, such as yourself. We know Mort Klein, for example, was recently in Qatar. Does it not bother you to perhaps be part of what seems to be a campaign by Qatar to try to use the American Jewish community to press its case in the United States?
I'm not part of any campaign. I was asked to do it independently. I don't represent any organization. I didn't have to check with anybody before I came. I may come to negative conclusions. I have made no commitments. I may come to the conclusion that the evidence against Qatar is stronger than the evidence in its favor. So this is not an attempt to try to get me to be a mouthpiece. If it were, it would fail. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have an objective assessment and come to conclusions that I believe are based on the facts. There's every good reason for doing that. It would be much better if the Gulf states united in opposition to Iran, to terrorism, if they could come together and show more support for Israel and have better relations with the United States. If I can help bring about those changes, of course I'd be happy and willing to do it. I quote in my article the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who gave an honor to Jesse Helms, who had been very opposed to Israel. And he explained to me in a letter that the reason for giving honors sometimes is to get people to change behavior. I didn't give Qatar any honors. I'm not defending them. But if I can help them change their behavior, of course it's something I would be happy to do. And if I find out that they're still funding terrorism or doing anything that affects Israel in a negative way, believe me, I will oppose them in the strongest possible way. And I'll have credibility doing it because I've been there. I've heard their side of the story. I'm now investigating the other side of the story. I hope to come to conclusions, but I'm not going to get into shouting matches and accusations and counter-accusations. I'm going to do what I always do, look at the evidence, come to conclusions, and then state my honest opinions. And it would have made no difference if I had paid my own way. It would have made no difference at all. Money doesn't influence my decisions, and shame on those who use an anti-Semitic trope. It's an anti-Semitic trope to claim that Jews can be bought, that they're money hungry. No, I think that any people who go over there are really looking to find out the truth. And